Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. You know, if this is something you end up enjoying, it could happen. Anyway, I wanted to do a review for Edgedancer. This is book 2.5 in the Stormlight archive. So essentially what that means is it goes in between Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. That's books 2 and 3 in the Stormlight archive. It's one of those novellas. It's like Dawn Shard is one that comes after the next book, after Oathbringer. And it kind of just ties some loose pieces together. But this is my spoiler-free review of Edgedancer. Edgedancer essentially follows a character that we meet in one of the interludes, well, in a couple of the interludes in Words of Radiance. She's a fun character. It's Lift, and so inevitably some of this does spoil for previous books. Edgedancer follows Lift as she continues to kind of, I guess, push against the pricks, kind of pushing against just uniformity and falling in line with just the normal status quo, and she hates that. She can't just stay in one place. But then also kind of following her nemesis, Darkness, as she calls him. And so we learn from Words of Radiance, she saves the day and helps kind of the new emperor get put in place, and she kind of gets rewarded. And so she kind of gets treated like a lady, like, you know, the person that saved the emperor's life, and it gets doted on, and she hates it. Right? She gets, you know, some learning. So, you know, they start teaching her some things and how to read and whatnot. And she's just like, no way. What's cool about Lift has some special powers. She might be a Knight Radiant. And that's really fun. So she has her own Spren, and Wendell is his name. And it's hard to remember some of these things because you're like, she just calls him a Voidbringer, which is, you know, the enemy of all mankind. And she lovingly refers to her, the guy who helps him out, or helps her out with everything, as a Voidbringer, the worst thing ever. So it's kind of funny. It's amusing. Lift's whole outlook is just kind of funny, in that she is just so much against the grain, and I've heard that Sanderson really has some fun writing her. But she does have this unique perspective, and Sanderson really nails that. We get to take a look at a new place here. So if you can see it, hopefully. There's Lift, there's Wendell, her Voidbringer, and this is a trail of people trying to get into this huge city that's actually sunken down into the earth, and that's kind of one of its protections for against high storms, right? That's the biggest thing that honestly, the natural thing that people are fighting here. So she saves the Emperor's life from Azimir, but again, she's just not gonna, she doesn't want to stick around there. But she makes it to Tashik, and that's where this is Tashik. Tashik is this kind of sunken down city. It's just very unique, and I love the idea of it, and the idea of, you know, again, exploring the world that Sanderson, it just would have bogged down the whole narrative in doing this. So what's cool that I read just kind of further, there are some kind of key-ish moments in Edgedancer that are explored that, you know, that kind of bridge some of the gaps between Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, but they just would have bogged down the narrative. But at the same time, if you don't read Edgedancer, suddenly some things are going to be happening in Oathbringer that you're going, wait, when did this happen? Why are they suddenly like this? So it kind of helps you understand what is actually going on here, and why. One of the things that's interesting about Lift is that her kind of magical powers of like being awesome, her awesomeness as she calls it, she's really becomes like slick or slidey, or, you know, I mean, just frankly, she can climb up her spren and make it up like walls and stuff like that. But she can really become fast or slippery, and just has some pretty cool powers. But it's all, and this is one of the more unique ones, she can power her powers through eating, through food, and kind of produce her own Stormlight, whereas most have to get Stormlight, like, and kind of absorb it through, like, the, you know, the coins, the money exchanges that are used, or other places, I guess, through a high storm. But she doesn't have to do that, so it's pretty unique, and I just, you know, I wonder what those implications mean. It's kind of cool to consider, again, that she can kind of make it herself, though it's always like she's always hungry, and she's always like, she's always hungry anyway because she's, you know, an orphan girl on her own. The things, you know, the negatives of Edgedancer I got to throw out that are, it gets a little Monty Python-esque, and I don't have anything wrong with Monty Python. I love Monty Python. I love absurd humor, but it starts to get a little absurd in some of her like interactions with the emperor that she saved, like with all people in authority and power. And I get that, you know, she kind of has these powers that kind of let her be a little removed, but some of the ridiculous stuff, it kind of, I feel like, pulls away a little bit from the tone, right? And it sets its own tone, and maybe that's why it's in an interlude and only and in its own novella, and I don't know how much more lift is going to be involved, but it does kind of feel like it changes the tone, and it changes it enough that it's kind of like stark, and you're kind of like, it doesn't feel like, I don't know, to me, like Stormlight fully. Like there's parts that do when, you know, when you're kind of exploring some of the world, like Tashik, but it makes things just a little on the absurd side. And so that's where I struggle with my rating here, because I liked it. It's very entertaining. It's very Sanderson. It's fast paced. It's got all the good things. And it's not even that long either. And so it's nothing to shake your fist at. But at the same time, I feel like it kind of gets a little too absurd, a little too crazy and nutty and like zany, where that's not the tone of the whole rest of the series, at least for me. Maybe I'm wrong. There's funny parts, right? I'm not saying there's not funny parts. It's not, you know, humorous things that happen, and not all of it needs to be moody, mopey Kaladin either. So I get that too. I like some levity, but it just, to this crazy absurd level, it just feels like it takes it, just, it turns it to 11. And again, just a little too much for me. So overall, I think I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I still very much liked it, very much enjoyed it. She's not my favorite character in the Stormlight archive, but she's a fun one, and she's fun to have in little doses. So it is still the right amount. It's lots of fun. It's a blast. So 6 out of 10 bookshelves. And I think I'm comfortable with that. Highly recommended though, and I think, again, I'm going to read Oathbringer here soon. I think it'll be one of those where it's like, oh, I'm definitely glad I read it. I haven't ever regretted one. It's just that I can definitely say not every Sanderson book for me is an automatic like 10 out of 10 stars or anything like that. So some are though, some are, right? And so I'm willing to go wherever it leads, right? So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Hope maybe you got something out of this. I don't know, maybe not. And what do you think? Am I wrong? How wrong am I? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.